Hi, and welcome to this installment of Frank and Mary here on Nantucket. If you haven't seen this show before, my name is Art Bergeron. My day job is as an elder law attorney at Myrick O'Connell. You may have seen me before at the Salt Marsh, but this is not about my day job. It's about my friends Frank and Mary. If you have seen my presentations, you know that Frank and Mary have a very simple goal. They're my make-believe characters, but they have a simple goal. They want to live in their house until they die and be buried in the backyard. And if that's on Nantucket, that means right here. They don't want to go away. They don't want to go to the mainland. They definitely don't want to go to Martha's Vineyard. No, they want to be here. So the question is, who are the people that you need to know? If you're like Frank and Mary, who are the people you need to know, and what are the programs you need to know about in order to stay right here for the rest of your life? So my wonderful co-host, Alison Forsgren, who was just complaining about how I roped her into doing this somehow, and now she just continues to have to do it. But I think she's having a good time. She finds these wonderful guests. We had a terrific one a couple of weeks ago. Even, she brought her family members in as guests. But today we have another wonderful guest to talk about a subject that is just so relevant actually to everyone on Nantucket, but certainly also to seniors. So Alison, whom do we have today?
Well, we have Tucker Holland, who is the housing director for the town of Nantucket. How long have you been doing this, Tucker?
Hi, Alison, and hi, Arthur. I've been in this role for formally for the last 2 years, and as the housing coordinator for 2 years before that.
But you've always been, in my mind, pretty passionate about housing for Nantucket's residents. So it's great to have you here, and we have. I'm sure that with town meeting coming up, you have a bunch of things that you can share with us when it comes to articles that are before the voting body. So we look forward to hearing what you have to say.
And thank you very much for being willing to come on. As Alison knows, my kind of question at the beginning of each show is, how did you get here? Kind of, because everybody seems to be from, or many people, except for like Alison, seems to be from someplace else, right? But I don't know. It's always a surprise. So how did you end up here?
I have come and gone a little bit. I have a 50-year history with the island. Started coming to Nantucket with my parents and my brother when I was 3 years old. We came every summer until my parents decided to move us all here full time in 1980. So moved here then. Libby Gibson, our town manager, and I were in 9th grade together. And then, went off to school and did a few things off island, but always with strong ties through family to Nantucket. And I moved back with my own family, my wife, and 3 young kids in the fall of 2012. So we've been full-time here for about 8 or 9 years.
And as a result of that, you have really been here. You were here early on when people could afford to live there, and now not so much since like 2012. So it's really wonderful to have you on. So thank you very much for coming.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the opportunity. And it has changed dramatically. When we moved here in 1980, the year-round population, I don't think was even 6,000 people, and it's probably 3 times that today.
Which is pretty amazing. And I know that Alison, and so once again, I didn't mean to be interrupting Alison's broader question about kind of what's going on at town meeting, because we certainly know that certainly it's what's talked about constantly, is how to address allowing people like you to be able to kind of live here, right? So that when people like us all fade away, there'll still be somebody here that isn't just taking the boat every day in order to make the island run.
Well, that's right. And we want Frank and Mary to be here too. There's a lot happening in housing. It's a little bit of not sure exactly where to start, but maybe one place is that, because this gets a lot of attention, I think, is around Chapter 40B is a requirement basically of the states that every municipality in the Commonwealth has to have 10% of its year-round housing qualify as affordable. And for whatever the reason, a long time, Nantucket hadn't made a lot of progress on that front. And when I started to get involved with this work 4 or 5 years ago, we were at 1.9% relative to the 10% requirement. We've made some good headway in regard to meeting that requirement over the course of the last 4 or 5 years. We're now over 5%, so about halfway to the goal in that regard. But Chapter 40B isn't really the be all and the end all regarding housing. It's one metric, and what really is fundamentally the issue is for our year-round residents to have a safe, suitable, stable, affordable to them place to call home. So town meeting a couple years ago in 2019 put a lot of faith in the housing efforts and approved $25 million in funding across a couple of articles, the Neighborhood First article, a $20 million bonding, and then CPC article that was another $5 million bonding. And the trust, the Affordable Housing Trust, and a lot of smart people set about deploying that money efficiently and to produce a meaningful result. And it isn't all evident yet, but there's a number of things in the works. That money has largely been deployed at this point. We acquired a site on Orange Street where there will be 24 rental apartments developed over the course of the next couple years. It's being put to work at 31 Fairgrounds, the old Wiggles Coffin and Joan Coffin home. In a project that is a collaboration between Housing Nantucket, a local nonprofit, and a local developer, and actually the Coffin family, just through their endorsement of this and the trust to develop 22 units of rental housing there. It's also being put to work in acquiring a site that presently belongs to the University of Massachusetts, Boston, as they were looking to sell that property, but have it go toward a community purpose. And this seemed like a good fit. And that's another 20 or so units that would be created there. So there are a lot of things that are happening. And some of these things, require further investment. The land is obviously the first part, but then we have to build these units. And in a place like Nantucket, where the average home price is well in excess of $2 million, you can imagine that producing something that is affordable is going to take some subsidy. And we have a lot more control as a community if we are providing that subsidy ourselves. Control in terms of the full range of income levels that we would like it to serve. Our approach with different projects is, we don't want any islander to not be eligible to, live in one of the developments that we're putting forward. And for the most part, that is the case. So, I know that, Frank and Mary are particularly concerned about, their later years and sort of what options are available to them. And so, we see a number of folks who have been longtime Nantucket residents, who have served the community in a variety of different ways, who at one point might like to downsize from a year-round home that they've had for a long time. And some of what we're working on creating actually will provide more options for seniors in the years where the kids are out of the nest and they're looking maybe not to have to manage so much. We are at the same time of working on those sort of housing options for them, we are also very much involved in developing a program that potentially can allow that next generation or younger generation of Nantucketers who might not on their own be able to afford to purchase a home here to um, have some investment alongside of their own, um, and allow them some investment monies available, and allow them to, you know, purchase a home that can stay in the year-round family, so to speak, in perpetuity. So that's kind of a maybe a broad place to start on all the different activities that are happening. And town meeting is obviously an opportunity to show your support for funding for some of the things that I just was going over. Um,
And so just to, town meeting this year is going to be a little bit different. I think we're going to be having someone on to explain what the changes are and how to participate, but it's going to be held on June 4th. Can you tell us a little bit about what the plan is? Will it be multiple days, or what is your take on the format and how it's going to roll out generally at town meeting?
Sure. And I want to say up front, I'm not necessarily the
Right.
total expert on all the details, but actually, Alison, I believe town meeting is on June 5th.
Oh, right.
It's a
Saturday.
Saturday. Yep. And so I believe it will be, you know, taking place during the day that day. More than likely, it will be held outside under tent type of format. My understanding is that the electronic voting system that was introduced last year will be utilized this year. So they are going to be using that, but there will be there won't be the usual large screen and sort of visual presentation that would take place in the auditorium or the gym at the high school. So it is going to be a simpler form in a sense of town meeting, although there will be electronic voting.
And so when it comes to things that are relative to you and your job, what are the articles that you're focusing on, and what can you share with us about the pros and cons?
Thank you. Well, there's a smorgasbord of housing related articles this year, which grateful there is so much focus and discussion on this topic. The principal articles that town administration is supporting are really the following. So there is approximately $2 million broken down by 375,000 in Article 8, which is the general town budget, and 1.625 million in Article 10, which is the capital appropriations that town administration has recommended as the ongoing annual department funding, if you will, for housing. So this is really the first year where my office, so to speak, is being funded in a material way, with the intention of it, you know, being part of the ongoing departmental annual funding. So town administration,
I mean, that's good news, right?
definitely. No, it's
Yeah.
it's very good news. And part of the reason that the larger sum is in the capital portion versus the regular town budget is there is an opportunity with some of those funds to bond them and therefore generate roughly $6.5 million that could go into one of the projects that I was describing earlier. So that is really terrific. In addition to Articles 8 and 10, there is an additional $7.5 million debt exclusion that is part of or is really the entirety of Article 24. And that is intended to be subsidy again for development of, for example, the Orange Street, 135, 137 Orange Street location, right near Marine Home Center. And that is, I mean, if I talk about that just for a moment, but that is a site that is, I think, pretty universally recognized as a great location, walkable living to the market and a number of different goods and services, bank, post office, et cetera. And those funds are really required, as I was mentioning, in order to develop the site and be able to offer it in terms of rents in an affordable way to the year-round community. And probably those funds are more important than ever at this time, because if you have been to a lumber yard anytime recently, you would be acutely aware that lumber and construction prices have gone up dramatically. And with the anticipation that some sort of national infrastructure program might eventually come out of the Congress and the national government, the pressure on construction pricing is probably not going to go down anytime soon. So these funds are particularly important at this time. So town administration is recommending folks support Articles 8, 10, and 24. Article 24, because it is a debt exclusion, does have a corresponding ballot measure, which is ballot measure or ballot question 6. And in addition, the Community Preservation Committee has recommended funding of $800,000 in Article 32 as part of their overall recommended funding that also is aimed to the trust in order principally to support the good housing work that Habitat for Humanity and Housing Nantucket do with their individual properties.
And so those are two separate nonprofits that are supported by the town that are not part of your purview as a town administrator, correct?
Yeah, I mean, they are separate entities, 501c3s, but the way that the funding for those organizations has evolved is, we're very grateful that the CPC has really recognized the Affordable Housing Trust as the center point of all housing activities. So really all funding is run through the trust, and I sort of a senior staff in a sense to the trust. And that central funding approach allows the left hand to know what the right hand is doing. And so probably more than ever before, there's a very coordinated effort between all of the housing entities, each of which serves, a little bit different segment of the market, but a coordinated approach across these organizations like there hasn't been in previous years.
And Alison, I can tell you, because I do this kind of work in a lot of communities, and I've done in my earlier life before I became an old guy and just had old people as clients. I did mostly real estate development, And so I was always sensitive to these issues. And it just feels like Nantucket is way ahead of the curve in terms of this kind of coordination, as well as in terms of the amount of funding that is actually being delivered at the local level. You know, I think I deal with a lot of communities that are a lot bigger than Nantucket in terms of population, right? That aren't doing nearly this amount of resource allocation as well as coordination. It was quite something. I'd never heard about this. It's quite something.
I'm actually always curious how Nantucket fits in with other areas in this specific case, as well as, you know, how many other communities aren't at the 10% affordable level that, you know, who are we racing with to achieve that? I mean, Tucker, I mean, what other communities, like how's the Vineyard doing on this?
Oh,
For example, lest we not bring up the Vineyard at all. I mean,
Well, just, you know, we're
well,
similar.
yeah,
yeah.
we
No,
are
it's a legitimate question.
we're similar. Well, thank you for those kind words, Arthur. And we are similar to the Vineyard, but actually there is an important difference if meeting the state 40B requirement, the 10% requirement is the focus of the question. So the Vineyard is in a very unique situation because they are the 6 towns that they have a super regional planning agency called the Martha's Vineyard Commission, which was established around the same time that the 40B law was created. And so in the case of the Vineyard, their super regional planning commission can actually say no to a 40B project. And that is not something that practically any other place has the ability to do, including Nantucket. So they are unique. But you know, we do, even though we are not at the 10%, I mean, I don't know the exact number, Allison, but I would guess that out of the 351 municipalities in the state, I would be surprised if 50 of them actually were at the 10% level. It's probably less than that. And you know, we are grateful that we have gotten some recognition for the work that we are doing. We were a signature, or I'll say an inaugural member of the governor and lieutenant governor's signature housing program called Housing Choice Communities. We were in the inaugural class, and we actually just received a Housing Choice Communities capital grant, which supports the development of the infrastructure at Waite Drive off of Tacoma Way, that is going to be the main road servicing the 64 unit Tacoma Green development. In addition to the Housing Choice Community Capital Grant, we are also very pleased to have received the town's first MassWorks grant, where we received $1.5 million this last fall, also toward that same infrastructure development. And we are actually hosting next week here on the island 2 senior officials from the Department of Housing and Community Development who are coming to really do site visits of a variety of these different projects that I have been talking about a bit here today. So we're very pleased to have the support of the Department of Housing and Community Development, or DHCD, and the state in general. And we're just trying to keep making progress. We know that the situation has only gotten worse during the pandemic, and we all knew there was a housing crisis before COVID, but the pandemic has highlighted even further the negative consequences of having inadequate housing, including in the pandemic, real public health concern and spread of the virus, through overcrowded living situations. So, we're very grateful to the community, the voters, for recognizing the importance of this issue, and are hopeful for their continued support coming up here.
And with the real estate market going as nuts as it is right now, it's great to have had already invested in some vacant land, although it's not going to nearly be enough to bring us to where we would like to be. But so are any of the plans inclusive of 55 and up or 65 and up subgroup, or a certain number of apartments being made affordable for that age group? Or
So
what can seniors look forward to if they, if they decide to get rid of their house and try something else?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And so right now we are in the process of developing the RFP for the Orange Street site, the request for proposals. And having a senior component to that development is something very much under consideration, and I would say, some likelihood that will be included in what we are seeking to have developed there, because it's such a great location, as was mentioned, in terms of walkability, access to so many goods and services, and easy to get to for relatives and friends of seniors who might be visiting.
And so are they also, are there going to be any income guidelines? I mean, is it going to be affordable only, or open market? I mean, how is how are the rents to be determined and the tenants chosen, actually?
So it's a great question. So when the projects that we sponsor, as I was saying a little earlier, we really by design want to have them serve a variety of income levels. So no particular development is like completely homogenous in the makeup of that development. We really feel that a mixed income development provides a very rich living environment. And so if you look at Six Fairgrounds as an example, Tacoma Green, there you have income served between 30% of AMI, which would be considered very low income, 60% AMI. When I say AMI, that refers to area median income. The area median income in Nantucket is for a family of four, $116,700 a year. So that development is serving 30% AMI, 60% AMI, 120% AMI, and then there are actually a handful of market rate units, again, with the philosophy that we don't want any Nantucketer to be income ineligible to reside there. If we look at 31 Fairgrounds, the project that Housing Nantucket is doing in collaboration with the Trust and a local developer, that is going to be serving, the 80%, the 110%, and the 150% AMI levels. So Orange Street, I think, will have an even broader range, up to 175 or 200% AMI. So we're conscious with each of these what is part of the other developments that are happening, so that we make sure that we are adding new levels and more access, because, at every income level here, really, folks struggle to find something.
Tucker, I'm just, my job is, I think I mentioned at the beginning of the show, I provide comic relief and I keep track of the time. So I'm now looking at the time and knowing that we're close to the end. But for folks who are hearing all of this, some of them for the first time, some may have been following it. If they wanted to know more, is there a place they can find this information? Is there a website that they can click to and kind of look at some of the things that you guys are doing?
Yeah,
it's really useful.
I think that the place to go is the Affordable Housing Trust web page on the Town of Nantucket website, and there's information up there today, but even more information is going to be added between now and town meeting that hopefully can communicate things even better than I have today.
And so will there be eventually a list that people can sign up to learn more or to be informed of the more specific timing? I mean, as these things are built and becoming ready to occupy, what's the procedure to get in? Briefly, obviously, because we don't have very much time.
Yeah, I mean, folks would want to reach out to the developer or sponsor of each of those projects, and those will be listed again on the Affordable Housing Trust webpage. So folks could raise their hand early and say, please include me to the appropriate party.
Great.
Alison, this was a great idea to invite Tucker. This is just really, really useful information. I think for Frank, the Franks and Marys out there who are trying to figure out how to not be totally locked into where they currently are.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
This really gives them a lot of options. So if you can get that information, I'm sure the folks at NCTV have been great about posting all of that information so people can see it and refer to it. Tucker, we really appreciate your coming on. And Alison, I cannot tell you how great this is. To have folks, to give Frank and Mary this many kind of views of really important issues is just really crucial. So,
well, I can't take credit for every single, guest. Actually, Tucker was referred to me, but it was great to have you, Tucker, and thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you both, and thank you for doing this. It's a tremendous service to the community.
So thank you, Tucker. Alison, always a pleasure. Thank you.
Same here.
Folks, this is a lot of information, so you really need to click to his website, to their website, right? But what's exciting about this, it's island-wide. They're really trying to be comprehensive about this. They want your input, and you want to know about them. If you're Frank and Mary and you want to know what your housing options are going to be in the future. So thank you for watching, and we'll look forward. Thank you, Tucker. Thank you, Alison. And folks, we'll look forward to seeing you on the next installment of Frank and Mary here on Nantucket. Thank you very much.